Today, would any game be... Wait, every game would be better with horses in it. It's like, would any game be worse with...
Yeah.
I don't know.
You came to the conclusion quite fast while asking the question.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
didn't-
Yeah,
I
every
didn't-
game would be better.
Actually, no. Now that I think about it, I can think of some games that I wouldn't want to have horses in. Like...
Barbie Horse Adventure.
Well, I'm just thinking games like, I don't know, say like Spec Ops: The Line. Because you know it's not going to go well for the horse in that.
You're right, yeah.
Like, I don't want horses in a game where the game is like one of those super depressing games, because you know it's not going to go well.
What if we replace
Depression
all the
Horse
characters
Adventure.
with horses, though?
Sorry,
So
which the...
we replace
all the characters.
All the characters are just horses now.
But
So
they're like in the outfits?
Yeah, they're still in the outfits. They still get their clothes. So then, Spec Ops: The Line is just horses running around doing bad stuff.
Just killing people in airports. Yeah.
The
Would Goat Simulator be better if the main character was a horse?
That's true. I don't know if it would.
Only
I
if they
don't know
still keep the name Goat Simulator. Yeah.
It's a horse dressed as a goat.
Yeah. I think the horse has to be dressed as a goat.
Anyway, hey everybody. Sorry, because of reasons that...
There's no more news ever again. Not even in that last episode of ChillPoint that went up.
Google has this has this predilection to being like it's time to expire your cookies.
Yeah.
And it's always during a stream.
During that intro.
Mm-hmm.
It signed him out.
It signed me out of Google Docs. I was like, I haven't changed to a different person in the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, and you were looking like you were just in there looking at it.
It's not like it
scrolling
timed
through
out.
it.
Yeah. No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how Google's credential system works. Anyway, hey everybody. How's it going? Welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about the week's video game news as well as the stuff that we went over on Checkpoint. Which went up yesterday, and that it was a excellent episode of Checkpoint with stories. Now the stories written, Kathleen wrote some stories, and Nelson wrote some stories. Beej wrote a story for it,
And Graham just showed up.
Showed up, but it's a fun and it's something that we've been trying to do more lately. Is this sort of spreading out of the writing process for Checkpoint?
Yeah.
For a long time, it was basically like whoever the hosts are have to do the stories.
Yeah. So Graham and Kathleen were like always having to write 2 or more stories each.
Yeah. Or.
Well, because then when I came on board, it was like
Right.
now it became
That-
easier for me to be like, well, I'll contribute something to the setup, and then it was like that takes a bit of the pressure off because now it's like if I can't think of a way through, then Beej is here and he maybe thought of a way through to write a story too, even when I wasn't hosting, and then when I started getting brought in to host,
Don't forget, we also used to write all those stories the morning of.
Yep,
That's true.
That was different. Yep.
That was a different deal.
Yeah.
I think it works a lot better now.
Checkpoint has gone through various iterations of its writing process, but I'm really happy with the current thing where we've got a little bit more. We got Nelson doing some of the some stories. We have Cameron doing stories.
Yep.
And we want to
With 5 people,
bring in some more, and it's often just like people have either an angle or just experience with stuff that we don't necessarily have experience with. So sometimes it's difficult to do a story on a game that you just don't know anything about.
Yeah. And I've become very used to writing stories that are definitely from my point of view, which makes it extremely difficult for anybody else to deliver the news from my point of view.
A lot of your stories devolve into your own childhood memories.
Yes.
Kind of.
Which Kathleen delivering those stories could not come across necessarily the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into stories. First one we talked about was this little thing from Balatro, which is a very successful game. In fact, a small aspect of the story is they just cracked 2 million copies sold. So congratulations to them. And yeah, there's this idea that, and we actually did a story about this a while ago where that Balatro got like blocked for being for gambling. Like
Right.
they got dropped from, I think, the PlayStation Store or something.
Right.
Was that Balatro? I thought that was that other game that taught kids how to play poker.
That happened as well.
Oh, okay.
But Balatro also did get hit by it.
Huh.
It starts with 2 S's. It's about the group of animals who
Who,
did a
like,
heist, but they're
yeah,
playing
they-
poker on a
yeah.
ship. Sunset something, sunshine something. I met the dude who did it too.
But
okay,
of
he
course the
doesn't
trick
know
with Balatro, like that in that game, you are ostensibly playing poker, but it's
Yeah.
actually a sort of a what do you call it? It's like a deduction thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I have no idea actually. I've never played, so yeah.
Sunshine Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas Balatro, you're not even pretending to play poker. It just happens to use like playing cards.
Yeah, a deck of cards. Yeah.
Well, and some tarot cards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And even use tarot cards.
It's kind of like a fancy solitaire game in a lot of ways.
But it just because at first glance it has some relationship to I mean I guess certain mechanics are poker-esque. Poker-esque.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so anyway, apparently Local Thunk, the developer, has already been approached on several occasions to make, which, I mean, I don't doubt that he has been approached, but it shows some of the sort of stupid bandwidth or sort of bandwagon jumping that these things do, because it's like he's been approached about making slot machines. And so like a Balatro themed slot machine wouldn't have you playing Balatro in the slot machine.
Wouldn't it just be a slot machine with card faces
So it would
on
be a
it?
slot machine that's branded Balatro, but you're just like doing regular slot machine things. But the Balatro branding is just playing cards, which
Yeah, but
presumably they're already slot machines, which is why that's a sort of such a dumb, like, it's that sort of jumping on the bandwagon.
I mean, most video game related slot machines and gambling games are just weird because they don't. It's just such a weird trying, like a distillation of a person trying to be like, these are things that are related to this thing, but also not.
Fun thing about slot machines, certainly in Las Vegas, and I believe in other places as well, video poker type slot machines, where there's like rather than just spinning the reels, there's like a whole process that you go through where you have to like choose things and do gameplay.
Some actions. There's some
You have to do some gameplay type stuff. Legally, because how gaming laws in Nevada work, legally, that has no bearing on the result. As soon as you have put your money in and hit the go button, the result has been chosen.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like it doesn't really matter.
And that's not like a conspiracy theory. That is how the gaming laws work for slot machines. There can be no skill-based aspect to it. Otherwise, it is a different category of game.
Yeah, you may as well just be like, here's $1, and I put my hand into a box, and there's one sheet of paper in it, and I pull out that one sheet of paper, and it told me whether I won or
You're
I
probably
lost.
better off getting better at like claw machine games or something.
Yeah. So anyway, So again, the idea that they would take Balatro and turn into a slot machine, you would think that would just be the regular video poker or something.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but I mean, they're not gonna care about that.
But tying into the branding, it's a popular game. You can totally see them doing that. And the creator totally totally understandably, and I would say to his credit, does not want that to happen. Presumably, he could get a lot of money from that.
Probably.
And to the extent that they have put that as an entry in their will that the Balatro game can never be used or sold to somebody who's going to use it for that, which is something that he put in. Like he tweeted that, which of course immediately made a bunch of armchair Twitter lawyer types being like, well, you see, you can't just say those two things. You have to have very specific language to make it a legal document. And he's like, yes, lawyers. My will is not just enclosed in this tweet. I actually have a legal document prepared by lawyers.
So I'm pretty sure you can't tweet your will as as a tweet thread and then be like, cool, done. I don't think that takes in the same way.
Mm-hmm. So, but yes, so it's kind of neat and it's cool. What was the that post that you were showing that about the Balatro?
In the discord.gg/LRR, somebody had posted, they had made a tweet. IGN had written their title for this as Balatro dev refuses to make it a gambling game even after his death. And Local Thunk had a picture of that and said, hey, love the article, but could you maybe work on that title? My brother just texted me wondering if I'm still alive.
In fact, hey, check this out. It's one of these great things. This is the title. Balatro creator hates the thought of their game being sold to a casino enough to forbid it in their will. But if we look at the main, the actual URL, Balatro dev refuses to make it a gambling game even after his death, was the original title. Which does make it kind of sound like he's dead now. He is very much not dead.
At time of recording.
It's funny, right? Editorial departments are the ones who who write the. I shouldn't say editorial, but editors themselves are the ones who are supposed to write the headlines for a website.
They can.
It's like,
or they make alterations.
Yeah, that often the reporter themselves don't put the headline on.
Yeah, like in traditional news services anyway, the reporters won't do that. I wonder if it is different in the digital era that you're like, I'm writing a thing and you're like, and it needs a title. Okay, here's the title of my piece because it's in the CMS. And it usually needs a title, and then somebody has to go back and be like, I'm going to just change that.
I mean, I've definitely seen controversies on Twitter and stuff. And reporters being like, that is not the title I chose for my story.
Yeah, the title generally gets swapped out before it even gets posted, but they also will update titles after some time. I think partially they might do that clickbaity thing where when the initial one comes out, it has a more clickbaity title, and then after like a couple of days, they put it to a more explanatory title.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of how a lot of internet stuff works now.
Yeah. Next was Nelson.
Spoiling Zelda Echoes of Wisdom for me. Thanks, Nelson.
Yeah. Beej deliberately avoiding watching the trailer.
Yep.
But now has been spoiled that there are horses.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's other mechanics now as well, so that's okay.
We don't have to go over the other mechanics.
I don't even know what bind or echoes actually means. I can just imagine, but yeah.
They told you what echoes meant in the initial trailer. That's the thing.
Oh,
you're
that's
making.
it's the making an echo of a table.
Mechanic.
Yeah,
making an
that's
echo
the
of a
name of that
folding chair.
mechanic.
Okay.
Bind's actually pretty cool, but I won't tell you.
Thank you.
But yeah, you get to show, and we were actually talking right before we went online, and realizing that, at least as far as we can think of, there hasn't been a Zelda like top-down style Zelda game where you have something to ride around on, or a horse or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because the area is a lot smaller than Breath of the Wild or something.
I think the Oracle of Ages and Seasons game has a cutscene at the beginning where he's riding on a horse, but I don't think he you get a horse that you get to ride on.
No. So yeah, it's actually pretty sweet. And it's also an adorable horse.
Yeah, and we think there's multiple horses because they show two different horses in the trailer.
So either there are multiple horses, or as somebody in the comments was like, maybe the horse like levels up over the course of
That's
the
possible.
thing. Maybe you have like Horsey the brown and then Horsey the white.
I mean, there could be a grooming stable, right? That it's like you take your horse there
You
and
can
it's
like recolor your horse.
recolor your
Or
horse to be
you only
different.
get one horse and you get to pick what it looks like.
There's that too.
You know, like a lot of pet games do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I like that Nelson apparently follows the same system that I do when setting up horses in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, which is giving them silly names because the horses don't know what their names are.
No.
Or they don't know whether their names are silly or not. So he had Nelson supplied that screenshot of his
One of his personal horses.
horse named Butt Fluff. I don't know if that was the horse or whether he made that specifically for the screenshot or whether he had played through the whole game with Butt Fluff.
Oh, I think that he decided to name his horse Princess Butterscotch Fluffy Mane III and was like, but I'm
10 characters.
Yeah, I'm gonna nick it down to Butt Fluff just because that also makes me laugh, that kind of thing. So I had a friend who always referred to Princess Sparkle Pony was like one of his favorite names to use when he was naming stuff. So even if it wasn't a horse, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had I had Horse Face. It's one of my horses.
Okay, that's good.
I also had Speckle Butt because there's one of the horse designs has like spots in their butt.
Yeah.
My favorite was I called Zelda's majestic golden horse Old Yella.
I mostly went with planet names, except for that one horse that you recover as that little side quest where the guy calls it Spot. And then when you get to keep him, he's just like, you can do whatever you want with him. Like, his name is Spot. How dare.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Yeah, you won't rename the horse.
It's a terrible
it's
person
already...
that you go rescue their horse for.
I always end up giving my horses like names that are like respectable names at least. So like I think I named Zelda's golden horse from the first game. You assume it's Zelda's horse in the first game, even though they never bring it up as a thing. But I caught it around the royal fountain, and I was like, this clearly has to be Zelda's horse because nobody else would ride a horse like this. She would, and so I named it Daltus, which is the name of the first king of Hyrule.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
You
this
went
before Tears of the Kingdom existed.
You went historical.
Yeah, I was like, that's what we'll do. Is that I could totally see that being a thing that she would, as a scholar and an interest in history and all these other kind of things, that she'd be like, oh, I'll name this horse after one of my ancestors, which is maybe that's okay. I don't know. Are there people going around naming their horses Queen Elizabeth II? I don't know, but
now you do bring up the interesting point though that it's like this big golden horse.
yeah.
It's got to be Zelda's horse.
Yeah.
So I mean, we see in this trailer Zelda riding around on brown and white horse and stuff. Maybe we're gonna see. Maybe she gets the golden horse at some point. Maybe that's the white horse goes Super Saiyan.
Oh yeah, maybe
Turns
There's
golden.
or there's kind of a Ponyta kind of thing where it like lights itself on fire and it all goes. Yeah, I like that.
maybe it digivolves. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
You can
Who
tell
knows?
though that
Nobody.
You can tell that
Well,
Nelson wrote this
Nintendo.
is because there's no way in hell I would put the term cutie patootie into my story, but he certainly would with this. So
Oh, you're far
Okay.
too sophisticated to put
it's
cutie
not
patootie
it's
in your
not
story.
part of my lexicon of things to say. Like I was seeing it and I was like, I have to read this out. So I should, and to be honest, I was like, I wonder if there's something I could say instead of this, and I was like, no, let it ride. He
Yeah.
wrote it this way. I'm gonna read it this way.
Also, horse with like four
Four legs.
no with four like diving fins and a
Goggles and snorkel.
goggles and a snorkel would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I
The
think-
goggles would be really wide. They'd have to go around the side of the...
Yeah.
I think I should get to make an entire echo of a bunch of horses and then have them just stampede over the enemies.
Apparently, you can run down enemies on your horse.
Nice.
So, anyway.
Sounds like me in Legend of the Five Rings, because that's what I used to do when I was playing. So I was on team. I was a clan unicorn, which is like the Western barbarians kind of, and I had horsemanship as a thing, which meant I had a giant horse compared to all the other horses in the area. And there was one time that there was a fight happening out of nowhere. We were walking around a city or whatever, and there's a fight happening out of nowhere, and I was like, I am useless to fight. Like metagaming, I am useless fighting unless I'm on my horse, because I had such a high degree of horsemanship. So I was like, I'll be right back, and I ran to the stables to grab my horse so I could ride it into the courtyard and fight, which touched off a whole... People got really upset about you riding your horse into a courtyard to fight, and by the time I got there, the fight was almost over anyway. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's like that thing where it's like, if there's like a barroom brawl happening.
yeah.
And you've got like you're already, even if you weren't great on a horse, you're already way ahead if you get to go out and get your horse.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Everyone at the table was really upset. They're like, what are you doing? No, come back and fight. And I'm like, I'm going to die if I don't get my horse.
Yeah, I just think it'd be really funny to make an entire stampede happen at like
Yeah.
Ganon or whoever the end boss of this
Horses
game is
come
going to be,
running
because
in.
it's not always Ganon.
Yeah, unlimited horse works.
One of those it's like one of those, in Final Fantasy, there's like
Horses of the round.
there's like the one of the there's like the chocobo attack,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
which was chocobo would nail the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you could do like a special attack that like sometimes like a huge horde of chocobo would like run past and destroy him. Anyway, let's go on to romhacking.net, not to be confused with romhacking.com or romhacks.org, which are different websites. But yes, romhacking.net, which is, I saw it. I saw one place describe it as the Nexus mods of ROM hacking,
Okay.
which I feel like is a analogy that you already have to be kind of deep in the deep in the weeds to get the analogy, but
It's like AMV. There's like a major AMV site. It's like, I don't know what the name of it is again though, but there was like,
AnimeMusicVideo.org.
it is .org, isn't it? Yeah. So if you going there is like, oh yeah, that's the place that like you could put your AMVs up on YouTube or anywhere else or those kind of things. But it's like, but ultimately what you want is you want to upload it to there because that's where everyone goes to look for them, because that's where everyone's ever always gone, because that's where the most of them are.
and from what I understand, this is one of those things where like there's a lot of sort of fragmented communities, right?
Yeah.
People who do specifically, Mario ROM hacks, or people that do Zelda ROM hacks, or people that do, translate Japanese games, or people who, there's all sorts of different ways of doing this.
Right.
And they all have their own communities, but this is was sort of a central location.
Yeah.
Anyway, unfortunately, apparently, it's been going for 20 years, or almost 20 years. It launched in 2005. And apparently, it's one of these things where it's primarily a single person running the thing.
Yeah.
And according to the post that the guy put up, the community's gotten bigger, so it's less of the sort of a close-knit community. There's been more legal problems with takedown notices at the DMCA. And the DMCA literally came in while didn't exist when they started this.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely a thing that feels like it's just gotten worse over time, no matter what site you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a process of he was going to be shutting it down, and then a community. The members of the community were like, "Hey, we'd like to, rather than shut it down, we'd like to take it over. We'd also like to update. Again, 20-year-old site apparently hasn't the infrastructure for it hadn't really been changed too much over that 20 years.
Yep.
So they were like, we have a bunch of ideas on how to modernize it that would not only make it run better, but decrease the administration and time and expense and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that got a certain way through and then completely fell apart. There was lots of infighting with people not believing that other people were acting in good faith for doing it, that they were sort of being cut out, and ultimately Nightcrawler, who's the guy who's managing this thing, didn't think that it would be actually being sort of left in good hands.
Yeah.
And he alleges that there was threats and doxing and all that kind of stuff, which is refuted by the other people.
Yep.
It's one of these things that, I mean, one, you don't really know unless you look at the various you have like logs of all the chats and stuff. But also it's the kind of thing that, like, when we're talking such a loose-knit community, right? Somebody, it's easy for somebody to do really, to be horrible, or to send threats or doxing or whatever, and sort of make it appear as if they are part of one group or part of another group. Like, it's not so nice. So currently, the thing that is commendable is, I mean, the site is still there. It is currently in read-only mode. An archive of the entire website, other than users and stuff, but all of the actual content on the website has been made available on the archive.org. So, in the spirit of, I guess, sort of open sourciness, somebody could take that and recreate the website. I'm sure people are actually either they have or are in the process of doing it now.
Yeah.
But of course, so a website like this, the content is like half of it, but the community around it was a large portion of it too, and that is less easy to recreate. That takes a lot of time and doing stuff. So it's a shame. There is an aspect to this where it's like, when a lot of the time, especially internet sort of graybeards, whatever, boomers, maybe. I don't know what the term, it's not really the correct term. But anyway.
The younger Gen X.
People who've been around a long time on the internet, there's often these days a lot of sort of nostalgia for the good old days before Reddit, Facebook, Discord, these sort of walled garden things took over a lot of the administration stuff.
Yeah, the open web kind of being like, you ran your own website and you had to find a place to keep it. And not even like going back further than even GeoCities and Tripod and AngelFire and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of idea of, I want to run a website of my own. And so you had, the hosting was either available through your university or you set it up somehow yourself. So
I'm not going to the time period where you have to phone into a website.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, we're not talking necessarily that far back, but the there is this idea that it's like, hey, it used to be, you have, blogs and all these things, and it didn't have to be, there wasn't ads everywhere, or the ads weren't as much, and they weren't stealing all your data and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which is an entirely true thing. The other sort of side of this is, it's like, this is also what happened.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have somebody who sort of has their little, their kind of fiefdom, their community, and that works great until a certain point where either that person doesn't want to do that anymore, or does something that everybody doesn't like and moves stuff. So there's down, and there's a lot of pressure on that person to sort of maintain this stuff. Like the reason why Discord and Facebook and these other services have been so successful is that a lot of people don't want the pressure of maintaining the infrastructure of a website.
Yeah, I never had a community.
So there are definitely trade-offs, is what I'm saying. And just because a website is, just because there's sort of the old style of websites, it doesn't mean that it's sort of perfect. It is sort of isolated though, which is nice in some ways, right? Like it's, if whatever, Facebook or some other, GeoCities or whatever goes away, which I guess happened on GeoCities, it doesn't take giant swaths of the internet with it. It's just this one place that goes away.
It's very, back when I ran my own website, that gained a fair bit of popularity, and then getting kicked off of the university web services because they were like, "Oh, we found a way to kick you off of here because you're generating too much traffic."
Right.
What we really wanted, the answer we came up with is, "Oh, you're selling things," and I'm like, "I'm not selling anything through the website, but sure, I'll take all my stuff off of here." And then somebody reached out, I put a notice on my website, and somebody reached out and said, "I'll let you borrow some of my web service that me and the rest of my, I'm assuming Polycule, were running through our house." And so then after I put my stuff on there, she contacted me a month later and she's like, "You just pushed a gig of traffic this month." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a lot." And she's like, "Yeah, it is." And I'm like, "Well, I've had over 100,000 views and it's climbing." And she's like, "Yeah, it is."
So you're like,
I'm like, "Do you want me to move?" She's like, "No, this is cool as hell. I love this so much. My roommates are blown away that we're hosting your website," kind of idea. And I was like, "Great, that's awesome." So, but that sense of, I love that idea of being able to host your own stuff yourself. But I fell into the same trap of, I'd like to learn how to do this better. I'd like to learn how to write a dynamic website with like using PHP and in my SQL and doing all those kind of things. And, having a database of all the stuff that was on my website that could be served up dynamically based on people's queries and stuff. And I was thinking about doing all this, but I never got around to it. Meanwhile, I was working with a guy who was providing like MP3 links and stuff for my website. And he was like, "I could do all that for you." And part of me was like, that would be great because then it would get done and then better things and cooler things could happen. But I was also like, but I want to learn to do it myself because I think it'd be an interesting exercise. And so I had to tell him no. And there is kind of that, there's kind of that thing where I'm seeing this dude's attitude where I'm like, "No, I want to do it. No, I want to do it. No, I want to do it."
So nowadays that guy would be like on Twitter writing a whole screed about how the owner of this website is such an asshole.
Potentially.
And is ruining the community.
This guy specifically that I worked with probably wouldn't have done that because we were maybe a little more friendly back then to people. I don't really know. Maybe you all thought of each other as people, but like, yeah, it feels like in this day and age, the dehumanization comes a lot faster. And the idea of like, this guy sits at the top of this thing and thinks he's a king and he wants to do everything his own way. And I think that's bullshit. And I think he's an asshole and here's where he lives. Like that kind of.
You're talking about, you're comparing a time when like you had talked to one person as opposed to this person who's probably talked to dozens upon dozens. And as communities get bigger, as you involve more people, you up the...
Well, attract more people anyway, right? Because it's like, it doesn't sound like he ever had a staff
sure,
of people.
But the more people you add into an equation,
yeah,
the more chances you have of a person blowing up or things not going right. I've seen several forums that once they get big, blow-ups happen and somebody else starts their own forum again.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
that's not new.
It happens like when you have community that generally you're going to have disagreement. And it's nice that we have really good mods who are managing the disagreements in all of the communities that are associated with us. And I feel for this dude too, because I was like, I remember being in the position of, I want to be able to do this all myself. And I'm like, when I decided to stop doing it, it was like, I can't do it anymore. So I need to step away from doing it. And I just kind of left the site up and was like, I'm not going to make updates. I'm not going to do anything else new. I'm not going to, whatever's going to happen is what's going to happen. And then you get people writing you and being like, hey, can I use your information? Can I use your pictures? I'm like, you can do whatever you want as long as you link back to the main website. That's all I care about. That kind of idea of this is how I'm going to give up on things. This sounds like somebody, though, who's more like, I want to fight to the very end to try to make this a good place. But then getting so bogged down by the stress of it that you end up cracking and you're like, I can't do any of this anymore. Which, when you have a community like this, it almost feels like the way to do it is to have the community make the website and the community find a way to manage this kind of thing. Because if it is that important of a project, that there needs to be a place like this for that. There needs to be a central hub to manage all this ROM hacking. Then it would be better to have a larger team of people. And I think this just that because this guy got started in 2005, where it was like you could build a website on your own and manage it and do whatever. You get kind of addicted to the idea of I'm the only resource or the largest resource, and hundreds of thousands of people are coming to look at this resource every single day. And then you kind of get yourself locked up into this thing of like, and what happens if I let other people in here? I'm the one who built this damn site, and they're gonna be there like taking the spotlight away from me. And it's like, sure, I didn't even know this site existed though. So you have to wonder about where the spotlight exists.
But none of us know this person.
Exactly right. We don't know.
And I mean, as a couple of folks in the chat mentioned, obviously, I was a professional web developer for many years, and I built all the versions of the Loading Ready Run website, and not dissimilar to this person. The current version of the Loading Ready Run website hasn't been updated from a technology's point of view in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it still does. It still is updated in terms of content. Heather still put stuff up there, and we upload the we put up the podcast and everything, and so that part of it is still working, but there's certainly a lot of things that could be better on it, and I would like to change and like to update, but time being what it is and stuff. We
could just stop making content.
We have plans. We have plans for that, and the website has the forums, which are not active at all anymore. Everything's moved over to the Discord.
Give me a pair of scissors and I'll cut some things.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Like it's especially web technology. It isn't a static thing.
No.
It does have to be. There's the concept of sort of link rot, which is which is slightly different. That's like websites going offline. But there's also this idea of like, the technologies that are used behind the scenes change. New servers update, and the version of PHP that you are using is no longer supported. So you have to update to the new version of PHP, but the new version of PHP doesn't support some of the stuff you were previously using. So now you have to. So you get these sort of cascading failures or cascading updates that you have to do, and realize. And so you're like, okay, so now I've got to rewrite a bunch of stuff. Well, if I'm going to rewrite a bunch of stuff, maybe I just need to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you start putting it off, and then and somebody else coming in wanting to change things. Or when to say like, oh, I can help you, I can fix it. It's like, but you're going to do it, you're going to do it in your way.
Yeah.
And then I won't know how, you're going to do it in a different way, which is an entirely valid way.
Yeah.
But just different than how I would do it.
Yeah.
And
depending on the familiarity
and that can be difficult to let go of.
Yeah, and depending on anybody's familiarity with a certain technology or another, then you have that competing thing of like, well, how now I have to try to get to speed with the way that you would have done it. And it's like, right, there's it is really very. I saw somebody in the chat, by the way, who said, hey, what happens to Loading Ready Run when Discord goes paid? And the fact is that
maybe nothing,
right? Like Loading Ready Run doesn't go away, obviously, right? The Loading Ready Run Discord, maybe everybody decides to pay for an account and do whatever. That's not up to us to make that decision. Or maybe a bunch of you who are on that Discord say, you know what, we'd maybe be better off doing something else, and you'll do something else and implement something else, and you'll let us know about it. and we'd be like, oh, okay, we're all going there.
We didn't start the Discord in the first place.
Exactly, right?
No,
So it's
that's
like
the thing.
the community survives because I think
We
you
took
guys
it
like
over,
each other.
but-
So you like us and you like each other and you all want to hang out with each other. So I think that it will find a way to maintain.
And
Paul,
I will, and I will say that one of the things that I think we've done well in respect to loading ready runs, sort of technological footprint on the internet, is that we don't have we try to avoid that sort of single point of failure as much as possible. Obviously, if YouTube goes down, it's going to be a pain in the butt.
yeah.
But we can adapt. We are not YouTube. We are not Discord. We are not whatever, Twitter.
Yeah.
We utilize. We're not Twitch. We utilize those services, but that is not all that we are.
Yeah.
We are
And we
the
can
website,
move,
though.
and we can move
Yeah.
somewhere else.
And if you or anyone else updates it to whatever the heck YouTube's UI system is going on right now, I will be very upset and I will make it known to your face.
Okay.
Oh
so
my goodness.
Yeah.
so Heather,
Or
Heather,
actually some of the stuff Twitch has been doing with its mobile app.
Heather's requirements
that.
document is that we do not adapt YouTube UI standards into how we
All
They're
right.
develop.
so annoying. Also, I might
See, this is the
might
problem.
legitimately wonder if something has gone wrong with you because it's really ugly.
Sometimes, especially when we're talking about new technologies and new website stuff, sometimes newer is not better.
It's true.
Anyway,
Good luck to the people who in the Roma hacking community trying to find a new home to make all this stuff work. I'm sure that somebody will rise from the ashes and make it come together.
yeah, it might take a while or whatever, but I mean, we've talked about mini ROM hacks and mods and different things here on ChillPoint, and so obviously, it's a very important resource for the community. So hopefully, it's something that can be continued on in some form.
There was some other stories.
Oh yeah, talking about the Donkey Kong barrel roll in the Nintendo World Championships NES edition, which and people in the comments also agreed with this. Brings up this very interesting point of the story is about that there's this Donkey Kong barrel roll, which is basically just finish one level of Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and how Nintendo World Championships works is that all the games appear to be slices emulated from the original game as opposed to re-implementations of the game.
And it reminds me a little bit of like the things they used to do for like WarioWare.
Yeah.
There'd be like,
You have 5 seconds to do this.
a little teeny bit of Zelda
Yeah.
in WarioWare or whatever. Except more than that. So, there's just one level of Donkey Kong, get to the top, that's it. That's the entirety of that part of the championships.
Yeah.
And the winner doing in 15 seconds is faster than it's possible to do playing the game normally.
Yes.
Even doing everything perfectly, there's no way you can beat it that way.
Yeah.
Because he used a glitch, this invisible ladder glitch.
But it is a glitch that exists in the original NES implementation of the game.
Right. So there becomes the philosophical question of whether they should allow things that worked in the original game.
I thought that I'd seen people talk about how they were looking for glitches that were from the original games, and not all of them had been.
That's true.
Were
Some
there.
of them,
Yeah.
some of them were in the ones, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
So we have to wonder if what's happening here, because you want to draw this with Occam's razor, right? You want to say like, well, what's the simplest thing to do in these respects? It's like, well, if there's a glitch that actually causes a larger problem, then maybe somebody who's on staff is like, well, that's a glitch that can be repaired in the source code or whatever. That's something we can go in and we can essentially make a Game Genie code to basically say fix this thing so it doesn't work this way. That doing some hacking on the ROM themselves. But it might also it might also be it might also be a thing of everybody who's familiar with Kid Icarus, for example, maybe played version 1.0 of Kid Icarus of all the cartridges that came out, and there are very few copies of the version 1.1 version of Kid Icarus floating around for whatever reason. And that's like, yeah, that's always existed. That's the one that we used that removed that glitch, and nobody knew about this, or very few people know about this. That kind of idea.
I find this game kind of, if it was intended to be a speedrunning game, I feel like they didn't go far enough. I feel like you should have left in versions that had those glitches, that you should actually kind of be even showing off that those were things that happened within the games at certain
This
points.
This was the way a way you could do things from that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess they did to some extent, but not to the whole thing.
Well, because I'm gonna assume that on that level you can probably S rank without using the invisible ladder, because that's probably not the intended thing for that.
Like, it would be super neat to make the game, to make it in such a way that it basically teaches you that glitch.
Oh, that would be very
But
fun.
that's what I mean,
fun.
right?
Yeah,
Like I haven't played the game, but from things I've heard of people talk about it, like the fact that leaderboards aren't like a thing in the game, even against just your friends. It's mostly a special event thing, and like other stuff like that. And I'm like, I find it weird because all of the challenges in this game sound like they're time based. Mm-hmm. They're basically speedrunning based. So why aren't they just going really hard into speedrunning?
Right.
Because they didn't do the fun thing of NES Remix, where they took the levels and did like weird things with the game that you have to play now.
Yeah. Well, too many turtles or too many Koopa Troopas on a stage, or something kind of weird.
I just collect all the coins, or do whatever, right?
But I just like that, making that level in Donkey Kong is with current technology is not difficult, right? Like, I would guess, I haven't done a lot of game programming, I would guess a relatively competent programmer could make that in a day.
Right.
Just that screen.
Just that one screen and the
hop
operation.
Over, hop over barrels, climb up the thing.
Especially because you know how all the logic's supposed to work.
And you know exactly how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Thing. So, but I love the fact that they didn't re-implement it.
Yeah.
That they did not, they did actually take the original source code deliberately, I would assume, leaving in the glitches.
Yeah.
Or at least deliberately not checking to see whether were glitches.
I feel like there's a line to be drawn, like, because you can draw the line from like NES Remix and Remix 2 and Ultimate NES Remix. Obviously, you can draw lines between that to see like this is the level of development for stuff they were doing, but that line extends out backwards and extends through Virtual Console and NSO, and I think that is part of the whole process. Like, a lot of those things have probably been referenced to each other. It's like getting things into the Virtual Console in the first place was Nintendo using an emulator, understanding how to like quality verify that everything's going to work properly in the emulated version, that kind of thing. Then we get NES Remix and stuff and be like, oh, now we're going to actually think about these games and all the different things you can do with them. And then getting and that kind of line of NSO's Nintendo Switch Online's emulation packages for NES and everything else, and being like, oh, now we can't fast forward, we can rewind over and over, and it's like, right, you can set a suspend point, and that's probably how a lot of these things are implemented too, where it's like, we know the suspend point for the start of the Donkey Kong level should be right here, and it counts you in 3, 2, 1, and the game starts playing, and it always knows that when it needs to restart that level, it's like, I go back to that suspend point. And I think a lot of those things are probably follow-ons from each other, that one thing was informing another, and it was never a sense of, okay, re-implement everything from scratch, because we were learning how to use the emulator and the functions of an emulator to represent all of these different parts of these games. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how they did that. That would save you a lot of development time rather than being like, and just make everything again. Like WarioWare has a different problem. They have to make all these new games from scratch.
Now, here's an interesting idea. We did a story about this, that in one of the Smash Brothers games, there's a 5-minute demo of Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
You can play the whole thing.
That is actually
you
the
can
whole
get-
game,
If you can get far
but with a
enough.
5-minute timer.
Yeah.
Which I love. Just the fact that they're like, it's too hard to like chop out a 5-minute chunk of the game. Let's just put the whole game in. There's a lot of space on the disc. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
I love that idea. And now I'm thinking about like, if you could find, some sort of exploit or whatever in Nintendo World Championship, like is all of Donkey Kong actually in Nintendo World Champ? Like you just keep playing the game.
Yeah.
If somehow you glitched past the Nintendo World Championship thing that cuts it after one level.
I have to believe that is that the games are so small that I'm like, you would just be like, F it, throw, like just scramble the, like,
And there's only 12
encrypt the
of them in
ROMs.
Balloon Fight.
There's which?
There's only 12 of them in Balloon Fight.
Right. Yeah. But like encrypt
Is
all the
Balloon
ROMs.
Fight in the championship?
Yeah, it is.
You encrypt
There's
all the
13
ROMs.
games altogether.
You put them in the thing. You have the switch is fast enough to be able to decrypt 35 kilobytes worth of information on the fly. It has to be, and just be able to play that stuff back. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure somebody, if they sat down for a while really looking at the code for Nintendo World Championships, I bet you they find a way to be like, I can extract all the games, I can extract all the ROMs, and we'll be able to tell even who dumped the ROMs in the first place. Like the headers and everything will tell us. Like.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I hope, and the interesting thing, like, so Nintendo hasn't made a statement one way or another about whether glitches are okay.
Yeah.
But they put this up on their like official leaderboard.
Yeah.
Like not only
Their
is it on,
showcase website.
Not only was it on the like automatically generated leaderboard because they were top, but it actually was like on their showcase website.
Mm-hmm.
Ostensibly, they know it's there. And they know that that is a time that is not achievable under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the implication is that they know and they don't care, which is
Probably.
Kinda great. Like,
I
I
don't
hope-
think there's anything wrong with it.
I hope that that is like the official ruling is that glitches are glitches. And and the interesting thing is like glitches are fine as long as they're glitches that were in the original. If you find new Nintendo World Championship glitches, no.
Yeah. There's a feeling I get. I've said this a lot that I'm like, it's Nintendo and Apple share a lot of similarities in how they try to conduct their business, and in one of those ways is PR. Right? They're very hush, litigious, all those kind of things. Right? Where it's like nobody leaks our shit or we'll get angry about it. Everything stays hush up to the point of where we want to announce it as much as possible. We will go after anybody who exploits our IP, et cetera, et cetera. They kind of both act the same way in that regard. And one thing that they also do, though, is, hey, something has happened that affects our brand or our hardware or our software or whatever. You're not going to hear from us for a week. And I feel like that's maybe the thing here where it's like, here's the issue, sit down and talk about it. Get a lawyer at the table, get 10 lawyers at the table. Sit down and talk about what are the implications, how do we want to do this? We're going to take our time to figure out how we're going to respond to this, write our thing how we're going to respond to it, and then we're going to go forward with that plan, as opposed to
they hardly
react immediately.
Yeah, they hardly ever sort of shoot from the hip on reactions. Yeah.
Because part of that, and I think part of that is too, is because that kind of messaging can get amplified, and then you really don't have how do you respond to the response, right? And instead of you can be like, if we wait a week, the initial response is going to do this, and it's going to calm down a bit, and then we're going to bring it up again, and there's going to be another blooming of a response, but we hopefully have had time to kind of feel out how we want to say this in a way that has less of a blow up. And I think that's the strategy here too, is it's probably gone back to the team to be like, do we have a problem with this or not?
If they do, they'll find a way they'll do an update.
They'll just send an update.
But that's what I mean. Like, I wish they went harder with this speedrunning idea, because I know someone in the chat said they do glitchless speedruns, but then you could have glitchless speedrun levels. You could have
both. Yeah.
glitch levels. You could have things that are like, there's supposed to be a thing where they they show you eventually or after some time, like kind of a Nintendo Power-esque thing that tells you things you should be trying. Like, don't bother like conserving your health and do whatever. And I think having those pop up that they're like, hey, this is a glitch that was in maybe the original game, and so it's over here. Like,
Yeah,
If-
yeah.
Did you find it? Did you not find it?
Yeah.
I just think that'd be cooler.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be really neat if they leaned into the idea of when we made these games, yeah, they weren't perfect. We did everything we could to make them perfect, but they're not perfect. And here's the exploits that you can come up with to do this interesting stuff. You know, that's been because it's like being able to jump off the side of a block in Super Mario Brothers has been there for 35, 40 years, right? You can't escape that. That's just always been the thing you could do in that copy.
And I'm always fascinated by explanations as to like why, especially games like, Mario and things that have been
Analyzed to death.
have been mapped completely, right?
Yeah.
They know everything. They have the source code for the game. And so they know exactly, they can map and they go like, okay, so the reason why this happened is this value changed here, this value changed here, this value changed here. It turns out if there's 5 bullet bills on screen at the same time, there isn't enough space to load in the sprite for this thing, so it overflows into here. I
love that.
stuff. Yeah. Anyway, let's. And then
The coming up.
The coming up was, of course, that there's the Nintendo Experienced Specialists.
NES.
For Nintendo Experience Specialist in Ontario and BC, which ironically, makes Teenage Beige extremely excited. Although at the time that would have been Teenage Beige in Alberta being like,
Extremely irritated.
It's there
Yeah.
and there, but not where I am. Oh no.
It's living in Alberta, right, in Medicine Hat, which is where I lived until I was going to university. There was no way in hell they were going to have anything like
Is
that.
it not a hot spot
No.
of Nintendo marketing?
The closest they would have ever had to do anything like that is they maybe would have brought the trucks to town when the Medicine Hat exhibition and Stampede was going on, because that was a big stop on the Canadian National Rodeo that you'd be like, oh, it's a really big celebration going on in town. We could bring the truck to town. We could park it outside, whatever. That would kind of make sense. But they wouldn't, because it was still only, you're going to have 50,000 people in town. It's not a huge deal.
No, they wanted to go to Edmonton or Calgary.
And that's the thing, is being in Edmonton, I was like, well, at least now that I'm moving to Edmonton, it did occur to me that I'm like, I'll be able to go to West Edmonton Mall, where they're going to have all the Nintendo showing off things that they do, all the promotional stuff, and maybe I'd be able to get a job like this, right? And that's true, because one time I went by, they had the Pikachu, the new Volkswagen Beetle, that was also made to look like a Pikachu, because they were doing promo stuff for Pokemon. And I'm like, well, that's good. That means that Nintendo does stuff at whim. But there's nothing about this being promo for a video game. This is just for the Pokemon brand in general.
When I worked at...
And then, when you worked...
When I worked there, they did have a thing set up for a while to show off something for the Wii.
Yeah.
I can't remember what. It was probably like Wii Sports and a couple different things like that.
But at that point, I was like in my 30s. And it's kind of like, I'm working a real job or whatever I was doing at the time. Maybe I was not working a job at that time, but I was not going to have an in to be able to go work a job that was essentially for 20-year-olds, and you're making like $12 an hour and that's it.
I mean, you have to kind of be looking for a job when those things pop up anyway, because otherwise you generally don't see the ads for them.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to just kind of be like, I have to always be going back to their website and looking for stuff. So,
and to be honest, working a kiosk style thing at West Edmonton Mall is not fun.
No, it's pretty miserable.
I only did it for a day for that one, but I've worked in actual stores. They're much better.
What
Nobody likes the kiosk people.
So what do they have to do?
I was going to say, Beige, here, let's see how you would do in this interview.
Yep.
Your duties would include attend scheduled shifts.
Oh, that'd be hard today, but sure, I could do it then. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have to be attend scheduled shifts with specified equipment and prepared to perform priorities, including customer-facing events, product demonstrations, and retail merchandising.
So that's showing up to a thing, like a shift that you have to be on, and you have to bring everything with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Perform setup and teardown of Nintendo equipment. Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Represent Nintendo in a professional manner.
Oh, yeah. I could probably pull it off.
I don't know.
I'd be responsible.
For a couple days, anyway. Maintain general awareness of Nintendo products, news, and events.
That should not be a
Yeah,
trouble.
slam dunk, no problem there.
No.
Submit feedback via customer insight surveys and shift surveys via Natural Insight, which is capitalized. So I assume that's a product.
That makes sense.
As part of site visits as required.
Okay.
Maintain assigned Nintendo Switch equipment, including all updates, downloads, and other content. Which I feel like that's you boot it up and you push OK.
Update. Yeah, I think so. Jesus.
Raise concerns and questions with your assigned area lead.
Oh, okay.
Which
I could be the assigned area lead.
I like that that's a duty to raise concerns and questions. It doesn't say it has to be, Nintendo related concerns.
I mean, maybe not, right? Like, it's like, I can't set up here today. Well, why not? Well, because there's an inch of water on the floor. I can't be here.
Your relevant competencies. Ability to effectively share knowledge during product demonstrations with a wide range of consumers in an engaging manner.
I think I could do that.
Yeah,
I can pull that off.
We have your security presentation from Loading Ready Live.
So you
that
do
was a very
realize,
compelling
though,
presentation.
You do realize, though, you don't do that presentation like once in a day, right? You're going to be doing this like 50 times in a day.
I worked sales at the UVic bookstore. I sold computers all day long. Like, I know how to talk to people about the thing that I'm
but
familiar
you
with.
do the same presentation.
Oh yeah, no, I would do that over and over. I'd sell people on the same MacBook Pro over and over. I'm used to that kind of thing.
I'm imagining it like the river ride at Disney World.
Yeah.
Where you're like, and now here we have the Switch. Oh no, look, it's Wario.
There is that is the thing, right? Is when you get into those roles, it's like you evolve patter, and then it becomes part of the stuff that you say all the time. And you're like, this is the thing. I had a thing that I used to do when I sold MacBooks, which was like, look, because why wouldn't I just buy that PC that's only $300? I'm like, come with me, and I'd take the PC and I'd take my finger and I'd try to lift up the monitor on the thing, and the whole freaking thing would come with him. Like, okay, see, there's that. But if I open it and I do this, and I'd grab the edges and I'd do this with the thing, and of course these flex because they're made of plastic, right? And it says, now watch the Mac, and I go like this, and the thing comes up on its own, and then I grab the monitor and I do this, and the whole computer moves because it's all made of aluminum, right? And I'm like, that's why that's $300, and that's why this is $1,000. And yeah, that might be different for you. Like, there might be not a way to come at it, but this thing's gonna last you longer throwing it in your bag over and over than probably that $300 Toshiba is gonna last you.
There you go. You got it.
That was a way to do it.
I'm pretty sure that when you demonstrate, I'm gonna assume the Switch, you can't just go over to another store and start doing a thing about PlayStation.
The PS5, you do this.
Just saying.
Outgoing, enthusiastic, energetic personality when approaching customers or of all ages at in-person events and retail spaces. No worries.
Yeah.
Strong initiative and adaptability when problem solving within a fast-paced environment.
Oh, they always say stuff like that.
Yeah. 1 to 3 years related customer service experience.
That might be harder, but maybe, yeah.
You worked at a store, like...
Multiple times, yeah.
Ability to travel between assigned in-person events and retail outlets.
Yeah, that'd be easy enough.
Previous experience working with kids and families.
I don't know if Internet Clown cuts it.
That might be harder to do. So, yeah.
General interest and knowledge of current and upcoming video games.
Yeah.
Probably could.
No, you know what? I call bogus on that because he won't watch the trailer for the new Zelda game.
If it was part of my job, I would understand that it's a thing I have to do.
It is part of your job. You work on a comedy show. And you still don't do it.
Yeah, but it's funnier that I don't stay up to date on the game that I want to buy.
Physical requirements, ability to climb ladders and lift heavy loads up to 30 pounds.
I could do all that.
Overtime periods, weekend and holiday work.
Yeah.
No, we don't know how to do that around here.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Beach probably has to get up.
Valid
before
driver's
9
license,
a.m.
clean driving record, proof of insurance, access to a smartphone.
Yeah.
With data, high-speed internet, and adequate storage space.
Oh, I wonder if they pay you for the use of having to use your own equipment to do that. I bet you they don't.
And pay range is $24.03.
That's where it starts. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I would have, if that, I'm going to assume that would be probably about $17 back when I was in university, maybe a little
And
bit
this is
cheaper.
like one
So,
or
yeah.
two, it says 1 to 3 years of experience. So like, this is not like 16-year-old kids. This
Yeah.
is getting whatever.
Yeah, you need
people who have-
19-year-olds.
People who have some experience.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I
that's-
wonder if there's a reason why they aren't doing 24, like, or whether why they add those 3 cents. I guess it's just how the percentages and the negotiations.
Yeah, the
Work out.
math probably works out in a certain way that's like it makes better sense to pay you at this. Yeah.
Anyway, and then of course we mentioned this was the alternative for the coming up, which we mentioned during the which they mentioned during the outro, which was Baldur's Gate 3. About 200,000 people have had relations with the bear form of Halsin, the druid.
Mm-hmm.
So
They gave us numbers.
which depending on your particular outlook might be a low amount or might be a high amount.
Like we know that after Baldur's Gate had been out for about 2 weeks or maybe even a month, I think that they had released a massive spate of numbers as well to say here's how
Yeah.
this has been going.
They told us how many people became a cheese wheel.
Yes,
I remember.
Was it a lot?
The cheese wheel part is great.
you're one of several who got to be a cheese wheel. I don't know why that there isn't a cheese wheel sex % in the speedruns yet.
Again, it's a spell. You don't last very long as the cheese wheel. You
saying-
do get to make a smell.
I was saying to Heather that the fact that you can be made, your player character can be made into a cheese wheel in the game means that this is like the Unbreakable Master Sword. It's available in Tears of the Kingdom, Paul. You were telling me about that, but you have to glitch yourself through 4 pages of instructions.
It's true.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, if that's the case, that means if the character can become a cheese wheel at some point in the game due to a spell, that means that you could probably glitch yourself in Baldur's Gate 3 into making yourself into a cheese wheel at any time, which means there must be a cutscene in which the bear is making love to a cheese wheel.
Sure. But at that point,
And if not, why not?
Yeah.
I just want to be a cheese wheel for the entire game.
It's one of those things like if this was,
Call me Horace.
one of those console, like the console type game, there'd be like cheese wheel, and then like once you get turned into the cheese wheel, like you like turn off your console and then like reload, or like save and quit and then reload,
And it hard locks you into
yeah,
it?
and like hard locks. Yeah, there's be some like weird or like tilt your cartridge or do something weird.
That's good.
I don't think there's a cartridge version of this game.
Yeah, probably not.
It'd be a disc if there was one.
I mean, that used to be a thing. There were a
You
lot
tilt
of
discs.
There were games that you could do really interesting things with on the PlayStation 1 because of how it buffered and read data off the disc. You could open the top of a PlayStation 1 and in some cases take the disc out completely, and the game would continue playing in weird ways.
Right, because okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because there was a trick where you could put like a little spring so that it didn't know that the door was open, but it could no longer read the disc. I remember Graham and I playing GTA 3, like Grand Theft Auto, and so you drive along, and it would be fine until you drive too far, and it was trying to load the next area, and it just couldn't. And so you would just start driving, and like there would be no first the buildings would have no textures,
Right.
and then there would be just no buildings.
Nice.
And then eventually the
Right.
road would run out.
Because it can still load the car and stuff.
It can still,
but,
so
yeah.
things that it had already loaded were fine, but it just couldn't get any of the new stuff. It couldn't
Right.
spool it up. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about some things we didn't go into in the episode. Something that they talked about in the outro or in the post show that didn't get into a lot of detail about was this idea that Fortnite is going to be adding things that were previously exclusive Battle Pass items are going to show up
Just on the store.
in the store a minimum of 18 months after they were on the Battle Pass.
Which is funny because to me that's like we're introducing timed exclusives on our own platform.
Yeah, we're
our
making
own
the
game.
Battle Pass
Yeah.
timed exclusive instead of exclusive.
That's not
exclusive.
actually that uncommon.
It feels interesting for just a game to say that I'm going to only make something available to people who want it, who are in one category, and then everyone else can get it later. But yeah, you're right. It isn't that uncommon.
It really
though.
isn't
No.
that uncommon of a thing to
The
do.
the thing that I find interesting about this is one. I mean, for one thing, the sort of removing FOMO part is sort of how it, in some ways, how it's been kind of reported.
Right.
And people have, as people have pointed out, it's not real.
Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, it's not. It's certainly not Epic. Being magnanimous
No.
and being like, we don't want people to feel bad. Obviously, they are just realizing that they could be getting more money.
Did Epic, like in their press release of whatever information they gave out, quotes or whatever, actually say we're doing this to remove FOMO, or is that kind of like the take that we're getting from people who are writing about the fact that this is a thing they've said?
Let's find out.
Because I feel like if Epic says we're doing this to remove FOMO, it's a lie. But if they're not, and other people are trying to be like, oh, it's removing FOMO, they don't really. I don't feel like they understand how FOMO works.
Yeah. So they in the blog post where they announced this, they do not say that.
That's what I thought.
That comes from the Polygon article talking about this.
Yeah.
That was their interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And I think you're correct that like this is not.
Well, just because
solving the FOMO.
the time frame of like 18 months is still basically leaving, because then you have basically that FOMO of I need to get it now, and you don't know for sure if it's going to come up. It's just we know that because they can't guarantee that these things will show up in the store, but it is a thing they want to do, right?
Yeah. Now, there's also that Socratic method also mentions here, though, quote, items in future Fortnite Battle Passes might be offered for purchase.
That's true.
Yeah.
Later. And
So
it
you
may
can't-
include.
You can't risk it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not removing FOMO at all.
But it is interesting because what it does is it signals to legislators that, oh no, look, we're not imbuing this game with dark patterns. You know, if a new Dark Ryu costume shows up in Fortnite as part of a Battle Pass exclusive, we might make that available later for people to buy. And it's like, well, okay, so you're saying that it would be available. Well, we might make it available. It's like you keep using that word might, like you want us to believe that you're doing everything you can to ensure that kids who are falling for your insidious marketing patterns are not going to be sad when they find out they can't get Dark Ryu later. It's like, right, because we might make it available. You might, okay.
They
Yeah.
say, this is in their fact, are all items guaranteed to come to the shop after 18 months? No. Shop selection is dependent on a variety of factors, and there's no guarantee that Battle Pass items will come to the shop after this change goes into effect. If an item in a future Battle Pass will never be available outside the pass, we'll let you know.
That's good. When?
Presumably, but
Probably while they're selling
Immediately?
it.
I hope so, yeah.
Well, because otherwise, like, if you put that in your marketing of this one's never going to come up anywhere else,
It's going back in the Disney
that's-
vault, yeah.
Yeah, that's pushing.
the big thing about this that I find interesting is that 18-month window.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a year and a half is a lot.
A year and a half, especially now. Of course, Fortnite has been going for a long time, and it's one of the more, one of the very much the most, if not the most, then one of the most successful multiplayer.
Yeah, it's
online
free
games.
to download.
Yeah, but in the course of say the last 18 months, the number of online service type games that have gone kaputski is very high.
Yeah.
Games that have been available for less than 18 months.
That's true too.
Some negative months.
Yeah. So this idea, for this to work, and also for this to work, not only do you have to be an enfranchised Fortnite player to actually be interested in these skins at all.
Right.
But they're betting that you will still be an enfranchised Fortnite player a year and a half from now.
Yeah, when you're now almost in grade 7, they're going to be like, well, we hope that you're going to still want to get that, that Chun-Li costume or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's fair.
Like that's a longer exclusive than Epic puts on like games that they fund to be in the Epic store.
Oh,
Usually
that's a good point.
I feel like that's usually a year.
Yeah. Huh. Wow.
When it's like when people get all grumpy about a game because it comes out in the Epic store before it comes out on Steam.
Yeah, they should.
So it's just like it's an interesting it is a big range and it's 18 plus months. So it's not like after 18 months it will come out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It'll be at least 18 months.
There's probably some licensing problems within there too, and if they can bring them, I feel like if they can bring them back, even if it is an 18-month window or whatever, that they probably will, just because again, you do make money off of maybe people who weren't playing the game at the time but joined on later, and maybe that is their favorite character, or somebody couldn't hit the battle pass that season or whatever. Like,
I get the idea too of like if you have a licensing agreement with a third party and you're like, oh, I need to get Darth Vader, like we're going to put Darth Vader into this, right? And then Disney turns around later and they're like, actually, you know what? We're not going to license this anymore. We're not going to make this available. Or so we have to pull it off your store. I mean, they could be like, you have to pull it out of the game. Like, everyone loses access to it entirely. Maybe, I don't know how that argument works, but the idea of we're not licensing X thing anymore to you, then you have that problem of, well, it's part of, we have an agreement that says that it's part of the battle pass for up to a certain amount of time, and then it drops off. And so, yeah, you would have to tell people, it's like, yeah, this is part of a timed, like, exclusive for these 6 months, and then that's it. If you don't buy it now, you don't get it again later. Yet other things might be like, oh, we have a long-standing agreement with Dragon Ball Z, so we're going to always have Goku in the store. Well,
they might make a different agreement after for something that's not.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Because I would assume that the wording that you would put on for a game like Fortnite is that you can't sell it after a certain amount of time, but not that they can't exist in the game, because if you've sold it to players, they're going to expect they get to keep using it.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, stuff happens, but yes. Speaking of Fortnite, here's another story actually about Fall Guys, which, if you don't know, Epic bought a while ago. Epic owns Fall Guys. And super cool game. We played it a few times on the channel. And so this is about a Fall Guys Fortnite crossover. And it's not that Fall Guys skins are going to be in Fortnite.
Are they going to put Fortnite in Fall Guys?
Although it's true that is actually happening.
They are going to get skins.
They're all going to get skins.
But that's not what the story is.
What they're doing, if this is Fall Guys itself is going to be in Fortnite.
Like the game loop.
So you're playing Fortnite Battle Royale.
Okay.
Running around, shooting other people. If you happen to be in if you go to the classy courts area of the map, you may find a bean idol.
Oh.
If you touch the bean idol, your character will be transported to an island. I believe it's like way up in the sky.
Okay.
Where you will then engage in a Fall Guys level.
Okay.
Like obstacle course.
Right.
Also, your character will be turned into a Fall Guys bean.
That looks like the skin or whatever, I'm
sure.
So
apparently, like, all the official if you're using a licensed Fortnite skin like
Let's say Goku.
like Goku or whatever,
Yeah.
you'll just get like a regular bean guy.
Okay.
If you're using a first party Fortnite skin, apparently they've made bean versions of all of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Neat.
And then you have, I think, 2 minutes to do the obstacle course, like to actually just play Fall Guys,
All right.
but with inside the Fortnite engine.
Nice.
And then how you do on that will then you then get like a loot box at the end that has like guns and stuff that you can use in the game of Fortnite that you are still playing.
Neat. Yeah.
Okay.
You're still locked inside this thing.
Right. Okay. That's because they've a lot of the other weird Fortnite stuff like Fortnite Lego. Or
It's like a different game.
The rhythm game thing is a separate section. It's not run around inside Fortnite and try to
But
Okay.
it's just yeah, you just get teleported in the middle of your like battle royale fighting thing, shooting game. You get transported into a game of Fall Guys, where you go, and then once you've done that, you go back. Apparently, also because there's Fortnite has level creation stuff, fan made things in it,
Right.
or it has the option, like there's a what do you call it, a level designer and stuff.
Okay.
Apparently Fall Guys obstacle courses will be something that people can make too, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
Fall Guys is now part of Fortnite's creative mode. And there's some pre-built islands you can check out, including sort of new versions of iconic Fall Guys stages. And then you can also build your own Fall Guys themed islands in Fortnite and publish them for others to check out. This is again all within Fortnite, not in Fall Guys.
Right.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is more of the evolution of Fortnite into a single gaming nexus. Yeah.
I mean,
This is what they've been working towards.
You might as well, why don't you it's like, just have like play a game of Rocket League in there, play a game, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah,
you
go
could
to
do.
the MLK exhibit.
Exactly.
Well, that was a timed event.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not just always there.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair.
it's like when they do concerts and stuff in Fortnite, they're not always just running. Those are timed things.
Yeah, fair. All right.
Do you want to play Star Wars Jedi: Survivor?
Survivor.
Yeah.
Is this like a Magic School Bus thing but you're a Jedi and they take you on a school field trip into the colon?
I actually
No.
have no idea what this game is even about because there's just been so many Star Wars games that are just you are the final Jedi and that you have to do some missions now and
To be fair, I don't actually know what this particular one is either.
great.
But yes. So if you want to play Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Star Wars Jedi ... Survivor. But you are sadly on the last gen of consoles. You've got a PS4 or a Xbox One.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh wait, did they actually make an exclusive or something?
The game came out a year ago
Right. On PS5 and
on PS5,
Series whatever.
and Series X,
Yeah.
and PC. They are now releasing on September 17th a version for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which is an unusual way of doing it.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
There's been a few instances where I think like Last of Us and Spider-Man has done a thing where they came out on the PS4 and then when the PS5 came out they were like remastered
Minor
high def
upgrade,
version.
Yeah.
This is the it's
Demaster.
there's literally they call it that. I mean, there's fans have made things they call demakes or dema. Yeah. I guess that's kind of what they did.
Devolution.
I feel like whatever the team was within EA, whose job it was to do this, maybe had kind of a thankless sort of a.
I mean, well, on the other hand, though,
Somebody just walked by, you can imagine, what is this? CEO Andrew Wilson from EA,
Right.
Just walking the hallways, drinking his coffee, be like, what are you guys working on in here? Oh, we're doing the PS4 version of Star Wars Survivor.
Didn't we already release a PS5 version of that?
Yeah, we already did that, didn't we? And then they're all like, you did?
Yeah, PS5 came out. It did?
Yeah, they're just nobody
Did
had
we
told them
tell
to stop
anyone?
working.
Yeah.
Nobody had told them to stop working on it.
This to me feels a lot like what it feels to me is that somebody did some math 3 years ago when they were working on the PS5 version. Or like, oh, we're not going to be able to, like, as this is being developed, they're like, this is not going to have very high sales because there aren't that many PS5s out still, right? Because again, 2 or 3 years ago, when you probably started the process of making this game or doing whatever you're doing with it, was 2022, 2021. Like, it was still bad news for the PS5 at that time. And I bet you they're like, well, we know the PS4 is still out there, so let's develop for that. And if we're going to be developing for the PS4, we could keep the Xbox One in our sights, perhaps. I don't know, because it would fit, right? Be like, we'll see what happens. Maybe console exclusivity, or rather, the availability of certain consoles is not going to be that high. Might have been just kind of like the math they did and said, okay, well, let's target the new one, which is what we're doing, but let's also keep developing an older one. And then I'm going to make a guess, as they got closer to release, they were like, oh shit, there's actually a lot of PS5s and whatnot out there. Everyone concentrate on getting that part done, and we've already burned a lot of money on the PS4 release, so when you're done doing that, a lot of you got to get back on the PS4 release and finish that and get that out there, and we'll make money on the back of that too. I don't know how true any of that might be, but if you're doing a lot of math about what's available at the time, you might have made that as a business decision.
You said the PS5 version came out like a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That decision might have come later.
To make a PS4 version.
Do a PS4 version. They might have wanted to focus on a PS5 version first. And there's been other Star Wars games. They might be able to tell from sales whether or not they're getting enough, or they feel like they're getting enough from the current generation.
I assume they would be like being made at the same time, because I think of something like Just Dance, where it's like Just Dance was still being made all the way back to Wii. Ubisoft was still targeting that because they were like, well, we know there's a penetration of a certain amount of consoles in the market that cover this off, and to be able to target all of it. But that was simultaneous release. Mm-hmm. So this is more of a thing of like, I bet you they thought that there wouldn't be enough PS5s out on the market, so let's have a PS4 one to cover our ass. And then everything else caught up, and it's like, oh, well, we're still making it. Should we finish it? Sunk cost fallacy? Mm-hmm. Who knows?
And presumably, the interesting thing is that, like, obviously the big difference between PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or whatever is resolution and graphics hardware.
Yeah.
But, obviously their CPUs and stuff are big too. But I would guess that one of the aspects of this that made it work was that the actual, the non-graphics parts, so the AI stuff, the level generation, whatever all the things everything that is encompassed that isn't rendering triangles to the screen in a very pretty way, was sort of comparatively reasonable, like was something that the PS4 could run.
If you just make a bunch of people run around in wireframe mode, it's kind of like, the
PS4
can handle this.
So the difference between the PS5 version and PS4 version, they could just they could concentrate on the graphics aren't as good, lower resolution, lower resolution textures, shorter draw distance, whatever you got to do. But because it's like if you're talking, if you have to go from if you have to actually change the enemy AI and change actually remove scenes from the game or do all sorts of stuff like that.
Right.
When it's just because the hardware can't handle it. For Baldur's Gate 3, they're talking for the Xbox version, the Xbox Series S version couldn't do split screen local multiplayer.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons why they weren't going to put it on Xbox for a while, and then that
because
changed.
they had this idea that the Series S and the Series X version had to be feature parity.
Right. Okay.
And they were like, it doesn't matter how bad we make, like how low quality graphics we make. Fundamentally, if you're doing split screen multiplayer, all the enemy AI, everything about the game has to run twice
Oh yeah. Yeah.
for
yeah,
two
yeah.
different views.
Right.
Even if it's crappy graphics, the CPU part that the Series X or the Series S can't handle.
Right. Huh.
So we can't do it. And then they eventually changed things. Their Xbox was like, fine, you can not do it.
You can do. You can just not have that thing. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
couple other things here. Castlevania people are coming to Dead by Daylight.
Yeah. We'd heard about that for a while.
Yeah, but now there's new details.
Well, now they're actually here.
Yeah.
They actually did it.
Yeah. Dracula.
Well, no, actually, no, sorry, August 27th. So there is
New details.
Yeah.
Like when it's coming out.
So Dracula is now going to show up in Dead by Daylight, which is Dracula wasn't part of Dead by Daylight up until now. I'm
No,
guessing.
in fact, I believe, according to this, apparently they haven't actually got, no vampires have been in Dead by Daylight until now.
What?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
surprising.
Really?
Yeah.
The great thing, apparently, if Dracula is the killer, or I think in some cases there can be two killers,
Okay.
but if Dracula is in the level, his castle also comes with him.
Yeah.
Like just in the
Like it follows him around like
in
a pet.
the like skybox
Yeah.
in the background.
Yeah.
There's like giant Dracula's castle. No other bad guy gets to have his own like thing come with him.
Right.
I
And
love
it's-
the idea that Dracula like
it like a
it's like a
balloon?
Howl's Moving Castle kind
Yeah.
of situation. Like his castle just kind of
Oh,
walks
it's got
around.
feet.
I
I
mean,
like the idea of it having feet.
The lore in Castlevania that I seem to have remembered up until now seems to be that it's like, oh, like all of a sudden one day Dracula's castle appears.
Yeah, the
in
castle
Japan,
just
like
it just appears every 1,000 years or something in
Yeah.
different places around
so
the
it
world.
kind of makes sense that it would be like kind of showing up in the against the moon or whatever. I like that no matter what level you're playing, if it is an outdoor level, you'll see his castle. That's kind of fun.
Trevor Belmont, who is
From Castlevania 3.
one of the Belmonts.
Yeah.
Oh, the Belmonts think they're so great.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's like Simon Belmont was in Castlevania and Castlevania 2. I don't know about the Game Boy ones. I don't know if he's in the Castlevania Adventure or not. But then, yeah, they changed it to Trevor because they wanted to change the time period. So Trevor was the one that was in Castlevania 3 and in another game as well. He was in another, or he shows up in like Castlevania Bloodlines and Judgment, I think.
Yeah, and Curse of Darkness.
Curse of Darkness and Judgment, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he gets 3 games. So that's I think even more than like Richter got. Richter got like a Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night.
DJ Alternative says that he was in the Netflix series too. So he's got a
That's
lot of.
going to be the bigger reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Belmonts are kind of like the Kardashians. You
Yeah.
know? They're all in different media properties, all doing their own thing.
It's funny to think that
They're
Trevor's
all in business for themselves in various ways,
that if
getting their profile in
I
there.
feel weird that if you were to talk to depending on what age somebody is that you talk to and like okay who's the best known Belmont from the Castlevania series, right? You get some people of our age probably saying Simon Belmont is the best known Belmont. He was the first one. He's had 2 games that that kind of thing. Then you would have some people being like, oh, Richter, because he was in Symphony of the Night and whatever and like that kind of thing, right? And Rondo of Blood, the 2 best Castlevania games ever made that God ever spit out of his mouth. And then but then you'd have a bunch of people who are way younger who'd be like, Trevor Belmont, he's in the goddamn series and he has all these other games and whatever. Trevor's the guy. Like there'll be disagreement on who's the best known one. So I think that's funny because it's just like that is not and from 3 different time periods, it's like that's not something I would have ever expected to happen.
Yeah.
You don't think like who's the best known Mario? It's fucking Mario, isn't it?
Shout out to Alucard, not a Belmont,
Not a
but
Belmont.
honorary Belmont.
Backwards Dracula.
Anyway,
Does that mean he like wears Dracula's clothes backwards?
yeah, he's like the crisscross version of that Dracula. I mean, he isn't, but he should be.
Captain Spam, that's fantastic. It would be, God, that would have, I don't know why we've never done that as a
Richter?
gag.
You need to give context for the people who watch this video
I'm
later.
gonna. So Captain Spam gave a quote, which is "Die monster, you don't belong in this world," which is one of Richter's quotes from the beginning of Symphony of the Night, right? And then the response being "Richter, traffic," and I'm like, which again is a Quirpline reference. And I'm like, I don't know why Ian has never leaned into that at some point.
You never played Castlevania?
I don't think. I would assume he'd be aware of Symphony of the Night though. But I don't think he's ever like.
Well, yeah,
it's not one of
but
his series. But
being
he'd be
aware
available.
of a game doesn't.
It's just to be really funny if he just did like as like the Halloween episode of Quirpline or something. If he did that and just be like the two, like just Alex and Graham just kind of melting down, being like, you can't. It's taking you till now to realize that you have the same name as this. What? It doesn't matter. Move
No,
on.
why haven't you thought of it? You're the Castlevania nut, apparently.
Oh, I've thought of the fact that they have the same name, but I'm like, I don't know how you draw a line between the two. And Richter Hammock Slam would just literally yell the line out. It wouldn't be anything clever. He would just yell the line out, and it would just make everybody mad. Anyway.
Here's a story that we don't quite know the full implications of yet, but it could be a problem. So NVIDIA has a lot of cool AI upscaling and AI generation stuff built into their cards these days.
Right.
Both for using in all sorts of interesting ways in terms of
Generating
generating content, but also there's interesting things about like basically you can run a game at like 1080p or the console is running or the computer is running it at 1080p, but you're displaying it at 4K.
Right.
And it can do that upscale, and it actually looks almost as good as rendering 4K natively,
Right.
but takes way less resources.
There is this sense that the Switch 2 is going to be adopting this technology. Nobody knows for sure.
They called that DLSS though. They didn't call that AI.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it is using the machine learning aspects of stuff to be able to generate things that way. Is my understanding. I don't know if
Yeah.
it is AI, but anyway.
We all use that term badly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in order to do that, it is got to train because it's effectively a generative algorithm that it's using, albeit one that's extremely specific. And so in order to make it better, they've got to get a lot of stuff to train it on. As in, they have to get, game play to train it on. Oh no! Because that's you want to feed it the stuff that it is working on, right? So you want to make it's like rather than generating whatever. In this case, you're specifically wanting it to generate gameplay video.
So they're paying a lot of people to play video games to feed into this thing, right?
Before they're released in
a
all the
way,
companies.
In a way.
Uh-huh.
In the sense that they are pulling down. They apparently have been. It has been revealed by a investigation by 404 Media.
Good for them.
Which is a cool. They do some really cool stuff. I'm not actually subscribed to it, so I can't read this entire thing. But
Yep.
I have a little summary on Game Developer. But they have been sourcing video for this from. So you know how NVIDIA has that like cloud computing thing? Their NVIDIA
GeForce Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like where you can play games on in the cloud and it streams the
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's you're playing a game. The game is being running on their servers.
Yeah, playing Marathon or whatever.
And then the game video is being streamed to you back there.
Right.
Turns out it's not that tough to also just keep that game video and use it to train their AI systems.
Oh, well, I haven't been doing any of that, so.
And of course, all its training is not on gameplay. It's training it on where people are looking and how things should look and what's going on in that respect, right? It's because they're trying to use it. Are they using it for upscaling, or are they actually using it for determining what a game should look like or how it should operate?
Well, they're using it. This article says for their AI products.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that includes the upscaling stuff. That includes some of their. I think that also includes some of their more dynamic, like actual developer side things for like generative content.
Okay.
So they're sourcing stuff from that, which is maybe not the worst. However, they're also apparently have sourced stuff from just YouTube gameplay videos.
For God's sake.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Apparently also from Netflix. I don't know what the gameplay video stuff that they're getting from Netflix.
I mean, you
It's
can
all from High
play
Score Girl.
games, but
I hate this.
wait, are they not scraping Twitch?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I assume if they're
They're willing to have a fight with Google over YouTube. They'd be willing to have a fight with Amazon over Twitch, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Employees at the company expressed concerns about this behavior in messages reviewed by 404 Media. Despite these concerns, NVIDIA told 404 Media that its scraping directives are, quote, in full compliance with the letter and spirit of copyright law. Fair use protects the ability to use a work for transformative purposes, such as model training.
that's not what
Which-
they mean by transformative
That is an
works.
area that is
Hasn't been litigated yet.
in highly questionable. Yeah. That model training is considered fair use is
That is
a big
definitely
battleground
not
right now.
true.
In
Yeah.
fact.
Wow.
Yeah, an employee speaking to 404 Media claims that they and others were told to grab full-length videos that could help train the company's AI model, and that game footage in particular was highly coveted by engineers. Acquiring game footage datasets involved collaborating with NVIDIA's GeForce Now cloud service. One Slack conversation, ooh, somebody leaked a ton of stuff. Senior research analyst Jim Fan noted that the service's streaming capabilities for capture and storing video. All of those high-quality gameplay videos would be very useful data to pull from. We'll work closely with the GeForce Now team and set up live data capture, scale up the pipeline, and process them for training. However, employees raising concerns were also allegedly told by the project managers that scraping was an executive decision and to not worry about it. The, quote, open legal issue, such as breaking YouTube's terms of service, would apparently be resolved in the future. What is this? In the 404 story, quotes from internal documents and Slack channels from several AI researchers show that NVIDIA's active effort to avoid bad press. Its research VP, Mingyu Liu, stressed that there couldn't be negative sentiment if the company didn't publish any research about its download data. What we are doing here will lead to 0 publications, wrote Liu. He and other staff also constructed their own YouTube data scrapers and an API account to help with the process. Which, by the way...
It's not immoral if it's secret.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, sure, I'll say things like that, but I don't mean it that way. Secrets used to be fun.
Yeah. MIT's Robert Mahari told 404 is proving data scraping can be very hard. He said that this is the guy from MIT saying the best company policy in terms of incentives is to not tell people what you've trained on. So long as you don't tell anybody, it's really hard to prove where the stuff, because
That's true.
It sort of anonymizes everything, right?
Yeah.
Effectively it's basically laundering
There's
information, right?
So Apple was doing a presentation on while they were trying to how they were improving Siri. This is before the whole Apple Intelligence thing, but it was a year or two before that. And in the conversation they were having about how they're trying to use machine learning, because that's what we were calling it before we were saying everything's AI, how they're using machine learning to improve Siri, and saying that part of you using Siri is that you can let Siri remember your stuff, and then we can use that to learn the kind of things people are asking for and the way that they ask for stuff, and we can create data sets based on that to help Siri get better for you. You're already paying to be a part of using Siri. If you're using Siri, then you can help make it better because you're already paying for it anyway. And how they talked about it was something called differential analysis, which is where they said we take all of your information, we anonymize, like we strip a lot of stuff out of it to anonymize it, which means that we change the times in which the request actually came, we change the locations, the IP addresses, and everything else about where it came from. But what we do is we do that for everybody, and then what we also do is we introduce a bunch of other data into the model as well that did not come from you in the first place, and we use that to create a better picture of we know that you're asking for this, but we're feeding some other data in that you've never asked for, and it's not associated with you anymore, even though that it. There's no real clear fingerprint of what you asked for anymore, is how they describe the whole process. And I'm like, that idea of, right, if we have a whole bunch of different videos we pulled from everywhere and we just kind of cram them all together, then the glut of data is supposed to say that you're not supposed to be able to track it back to anybody who was doing a specific thing. And also, I don't know what the nefarious purpose of getting somebody's gameplay video is yet, but that's because I don't have that good of imagination, and I'm sure somebody's figuring it out as I'm talking.
I mean, it's not nefarious as in
we're going to use it against you.
As in we're going to use it against you. It's nefarious in the sense that it's content that you're using that you didn't create.
Yeah.
Although, and obviously this goes back into the let's plays where that fits in terms of the copyright whatevers. But it is it's an interesting area, and the fact that NVIDIA is sort of it's probably fine.
Yeah.
It's fair use. It's fine. Yeah. Doesn't fill one with a lot of optimism.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where, especially in this day and age, when anybody says if a person says that, you're like, okay, well, you're a person, you don't have a bunch of high-priced lawyers. A person is attempting to make fair use out of a video game by being like, I'm taking your video game and I'm playing it for the internet. I'm a person using a much larger thing. But when a corporation comes along to a person and says it's fair use that I use the thing that you've generated, it starts to feel a lot differently, because it's you're not a human telling me that.
One of the interesting things about the sort of generative AI training thing is they've got so blatant about it that they're not stealing. It's not that they're training it on artists and things that can't defend themselves. They're the Getty image archive. In this case, YouTube.
Yeah.
It's this thing. And I mean, Getty has, and various other companies have been you know what? We are actually going to object to that.
Yeah.
And let's hash this thing out. You know, we're going to lock this thing down. And, there's numerous legal things that are currently going in the works for how this is going to work.
Yeah, this is related to how people have been generating images and been noticing that parts of Getty watermarks have been showing up in their images, like that style of thing.
Yeah, and so it's
you're clearly scraping all of our watermarked images. Yeah.
Of course, it's not like Getty also steals images and stuff. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think that's all the. I mean,
was it? That's what we're ending on. Wow.
Well,
video game news can go in the toilet.
Do you want something happier to end on?
I prefer to end on a higher note.
So Boku no Natsuyasumi? Let's try this again. Do you know My Summer Vacation? A game called My Summer Vacation for the PS1?
Yes.
Okay, so I played an updated version of that.
That's why I know it.
Shin-chan and Me and the Professor on Summer Vacation, right?
Yeah.
That is essentially an update.
You played that on stream, right?
It was great. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. So there was announced recently that Natsumon, 20th Century Boy, 20th Century Boy, whatever they call it, Natsumon, that is a new edition of Boku no Natsuyasumi. It's like a sequel, right? It's another one coming out for the Switch. Has a demo that has just come out. So that is happy news for me, because I'm going to play that demo at some point, because I'm looking forward to see how that's going to go. People have said that it's a bit of a letdown because in the Shinchan game, like all the other Boku no Yatsuyasumi games, they're all pre-rendered scenes. So there's a camera that sits at one location and it follows you along as you run through the scene, but you can't go full 3D with it. It's just like we made a beautiful scene and you run through on one path, and you run on another side, or like that kind of thing. And so it's all a bunch of static whatevers. The new game is all full 3D, and they're like, it actually, because of the complicated nature of trying to make something that looks that beautiful, it kind of doesn't. It loses a bit of the...
So your high note is to tell me about a thing that's happy for you,
Yeah.
which I will take over
I get to play
the
demo.
destruction of everything
I'm
else.
excited.
And then to talk about the things that suck about it.
No, it's just like it's a bit of a letdown, but I'm still looking forward to see what the whole process, like how it ends up all looking, because I think it'll still be fun. We'll see.
I'm gonna go home and eat a sandwich and curl up into a ball or something.
Oh.
Wait, wait.
Find a good sandwich.
Yeah. You got something even happier?
This is actually
Does the screen cap work?
yeah, it does.
Great.
Metal Gear Solid 2.
Mm-hmm.
Great game. And a game that has a lot of what you might call emergent gameplay in it, in the sense that, like Zelda or any of these games, they put a lot of functions into the game,
Right.
and how those things interact might not be completely what was planned by the developers.
Right.
One of the things that people figured out, apparently this is like a relatively a new development, is that
I know what this is.
you can knock out guards by tranking a seagull and have the seagull boop.
It's really good.
So you have to memorize not only where all the guards are, but where what all the seagull paths are.
Right.
And knowing exactly when a seagull is going to be going over this particular guy.
Right.
Trank him at just the right time. Hit seagull. And so I love the idea of that. It's like, not only are you, a ghost
Yes.
in terms of infiltrating this place. Like, it's not, there isn't even all the only evidence that you were there is this weird rash of people getting hit by seagulls.
I especially
like how many times, like a guard, a seagull falls on a guard and knocks the guard out,
Right.
and you're like the guy, you're the big bad guy in charge,
Yeah.
and you hear about that. How many times would that happen before you would be like, okay, something's going on?
Yeah. Oh, it's happened again, boss. What happened again?
3.
Dave got hit on the head with a seagull.
I
It's
think
like
3.
Why? How?
The first time you actually just laugh at it because you're like, that's funny.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the second time you're like, well, that's weird, but
Yeah,
maybe,
are you guys
right?
like feeding the seagulls or like
Maybe.
throwing stuff
But by,
at them
like,
or
the
something?
third time, you're kind of like, okay, what are you doing to the seagulls?
What I think is more amazing is that the seagulls were programmed in the game to have weight.
To have weight to be able that you can shoot them. Metal Gear Solid has all this great stuff. One of my favorite things is, there's like barrels of, there's just like any game. There's big barrels around.
Yeah.
But barrels will have like water or fuel or stuff in them. Where you shoot the barrel will change. Like if you shoot it at the top,
A little bit
a
comes
little
out.
bit comes out. The farther you go down, the longer it sprays out water or whatever's inside
in
it.
there.
It's just one of those things where they've really like paid attention to all
Yeah.
this stuff. Whenever you like finish a clip of ammo, you have an empty clip of ammo in your inventory that you can then like throw and distract people with.
Okay.
Just weird stuff like that.
It's just really
Especially considering this is a PS2 game.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think of that if the seagull has weight, right? Like it knows it's doing.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Whatever, but it's like you shoot the thing, it has weight. And it's not gonna like in Zelda where when you shoot a seagull or whatever, it turns into a delicious chicken thigh. So weird. But it also, the fact that it has weight means that in the physics of the engine, if you drop it from a certain... Well, I mean, if I dropped a 3-pound weight on your head even from this distance, it's going to hurt like a mother. Right?
I mean,
So-
people have been hit by birds in real life. And
Yeah.
Isn't famously Fabio got hit in the face by a seagull?
Exactly, right? And I'm like, so
it'll mess you up.
a dude standing there and he gets hit in the head with his 3-pound weight from like about 3 or 4 meters above his head. And it does knock him to the ground.
Yeah.
It's not like a thing of like, oh, there's an interaction between two elements. It's like, no, this is a thing that's a weight that it hit a character in the game, and if you had just lobbed a 3-pound weight at their head, the same thing would have happened regardless.
Yes.
It's kind of fun. I like that idea.
Okay.
Yeah. That's really cool.
I love the, I mean, games like, Hitman or whatever are great for this kind of stuff too, where people figure out, because Hitman is all about this, right?
Yeah.
It's all about coming up with these, the like, especially like the speed runs will be like coming up with something. Like if you want like a speed run of a Hitman game will be like 45 seconds. They start, they take out a muffin that they equip themselves with. They put the muffin on the ground. They stand on the muffin. They take out their sniper rifle and point it at a specific spot that looks the same as any other spot.
Yeah.
They fire and then they leave. And just before they leave, the thing that they hit, which was like something that hit something else that hit a chandelier, and the chandelier fell and dropped on top of the guy they were supposed to be killing, who happened to be walking by at the time.
Right.
And you have to stand on the muffin because you need an extra like inch of height. Otherwise, you don't get the shot right. And so it's just, but like if you don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
it just looks like a guy comes in, stands on a muffin, shoots nowhere,
Random spot, yeah.
leaves, and then walks away.
And then tomorrow in the paper, you find out that somebody died because of chandelier filament, and you do not put those two things together.
yeah. Anyway, it's great.
Meanwhile, in Zelda, you can carry 1,000 apples.
Well,
You just kill somebody by piling apples on them.
If my bag in Zelda just opened up and 1,000 apples just came shooting out and hit Ganon in the head, I think it'd be a very different kind of game. Absolutely, I'm looking forward to.
maybe that's what all those gloom hands are after.
I'm looking forward to seeing this play out in Echoes of Wisdom, where you can echo an entire coliseum full of folding chairs at whoever the bad guy is at the end. Just opens a bag and go, my pretties.
Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. And thanks for checking out the episode of ChillPoint. If you have, or if you haven't, you should do that now.
Yeah, there's some chain jangling that happens in the after show.
Ooh, yeah, it's true.
I put the chains in.
Oh, nice. We recorded like a bunch of different chain noises. So
Yeah.
I'm
I clipped them so they're like real quick.
nice.
It's really good.
So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will talk to all y'all later.
Hit the Patreon and the store and all the things that we tell you to do.
Bye.